There's been a billion breakdowns of Benito Bowl. But let me ask y'all a question right quick. Did anybody break down the dance? Like, do you even know what styles of dance you was watching? What they mean culturally, politically, historically? Did you know that the choreography team had 6 people? Yes, 6. If not, it's all good. I got you. Let's start with the choreographers, starting with the lead choreographer, Charm LaDonna from Compton, California. Charm has been in the industry a long time. As a matter of fact, she was 10 years old when Fatima Robinson first booked her in Mason Harlem World's I Like It music video, later becoming her mentor. Since then, she's built an award-winning career with 2 MTV VMAs for Best Choreography for Rosalia's Con Altura and Dua Lipa's Houdini. And she also earned 2 Emmy nominations for Outstanding Choreography for Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime show and Beyonce Bowl. What I really love about Charm is how she builds movement in vignettes. She's incredible at layering cinematic moments where everything has intention, nuance, and attitude. You can see Charm all over this performance, especially in moments like this. The head, the attitude, the framing, that has charm written all over it. Her ability to stage movement that feels cinematic, layered, and reflective of how complex culture is her superpower. Now let's talk about the other lead choreographer, Karina Ortiz. Karina Ortiz is from Bayamón, Puerto Rico. She's been Bad Bunny's longtime choreographer since El Último Tour del Mundo, his residency No Me Quiero Ir de Aquí, and she's now with Debí Tirar Más Fotos World Tour. I think it's really important that she was part of this choreography team. So often when a choreographer gets a moment this big, they'll pull from a culture instead of going to the source. Charm working alongside a Puerto Rican choreographer from PR speaks to her integrity. Having Karina there guarantees cultural authenticity because these dances and this movement live in her body through her lived experience, in her home, in her streets, in her community, and you could feel that grounding all over this performance. Karina's power is in her love for her culture and her commitment to making sure that what is presented is authentically Boricua. The first associate choreographer I want to mention is my boy, Jovanni Soto. Jovanni is from Boston, Massachusetts. He's trained out the ass. I am talking classically. He's also half Puerto Rican and half Dominican. First of all, moment well deserved. He's been in the industry for a long time and he's a real powerhouse. I see Jovanni as an important bridge on this team between the industry here in the States and La Cultura Caribeña. He's danced for everybody and their moms, including Karol G, Becky G, Usher, with her, Shakira, Rosalia, and he's also been on stage with Beyonce for Beyonce Bowl. He's worked closely with Charm and he shares cultural language with Karina. Him being a part of this team just makes sense. Next up, we have Melany Mercedes. She's a Bronx-born Dominican girl from the New York Salsa and Mambo scene. Not just some dancer on a resume. She's been a teacher and a choreographer in that scene for many, many years. She's trained, performed, and taught in over 45 countries and was the first Antu Salsera to reach top 10 on So You Think You Can Dance. And she was a principal dancer in the film adaptation of In the Heights. She now lives in LA, bringing Salsa Antu to a West Coast scene that's largely dominated by Salsa on One. And New York Mambo Antu has direct ties to the Puerto Rican diaspora. So having her on the team means that they brought in someone who comes from the place that Bad Bunny was singing about, Nueva York. Next is Kiani Del Valle. Kiani is Puerto Rican born, Berlin, LA, and New York based, and is a multidisciplinary dancer, choreographer, director, and performance curator. She was a stunt choreographer behind the aerial work on the Electro Pose. Her work blends contemporary dance, performance art, visual art, film, and conceptual embodiment. It goes beyond choreography into something more expansive. And we saw that embodied in the movement on the Electro Pose, body suspended in tension, the way that Puerto Ricans have had to hold on through instability, neglect, and survival. And last but certainly not least, Valerie Limas. Valerie is Mexican and Salvadoran, born and raised in Los Angeles, and she was the assistant choreographer on the job. She started training at Millennium Dance Complex in 1999, back when we still called it The Dome. She signed in 2007 and has been touring and working with artists like Tyga, Nelly, The Game, Pretty Ricky, Moneybagg Yo, and more. Her relationship with Charm goes back 2 decades plus, and she's worked with Bad Bunny not 1, not 2, but 3 times. In 2020 for a Cheetos commercial, to his 2023 Grammy performance, and also a music video, all leading up to this Super Bowl moment. With hundreds of dancers and a production at the scale, as an assistant choreographer, she likely carried a massive amount of logistics, music coordination, spacing, transitions, day-to-day problem solving, the stuff that keeps something this big running smoothly. She was likely the go-to, the glue. This is not a small job. It's a heavy load to carry. And with her level of experience, she was a serious asset to this team. Now let's talk about the dance. The first dance style that we see after Bad Bunny sets the tone for Puerto Rican and Caribbean culture is Perreo-inspired choreography with some elements of hip-hop and heels dance. Perreo is the dance of reggaeton, but it's not just shaking ass. Historically, what we now call Perreo music comes out of Sandungueo, pioneered by people like DJ Blass and Tego Calderón in the 90s and the early 2000s. This music and movement came out of very black, low-income neighborhoods, especially the caseríos, aka the projects in Puerto Rico. My homegirl La Gata breaks this down real clear. Sandungueo is about a groove, a weight, a sensuality. Over time, Perreo became its own thing, a genre and a culture tied to a specific BPM, a feeling, and an intention. Follow her and take her Perreo 101 classes for the deep dive. The name Perreo leans into the doggy style position of the dance. Perreo pulls straight from the African diaspora. Hip undulation, pelvic isolation, grinding, whining, booty popping. You see it in dancehall, in Haitian compa, and New Orleans bounce and twerking. It ain't new, and neither is how it was demonized. Perreo was labeled too vulgar, too sexual, too black, too ghetto. Sound familiar?
Too loud, too reckless, too ghetto.
It was literally banned or criminalized in places all over Puerto Rico and Cuba, just like jazz, bachata, dancehall, just like Two Live Crew right here in the States with booty bounce music. Now, Perreo does exist inside a misogynistic music industry, but in practice, Perreo also gives women a lot of autonomy. So when Bad Bunny opens this section with Yo Perreo Sola, an explicitly anti-misogyny, pro-woman song, and all the dancers are women in front of La Casita doing Perreo-inspired choreography, that's already setting the tone. Low-key, that feels like a nod to Evie Queen. It's Perreo outside of the male gaze. It exists for women, for autonomy, and in community. Now we're in the early 2000s, peak Sandungueo and Perreo era. And where are we? At a party de Marquesina. A Marquesina party is like a garage party. It's like kind of outdoor, indoor. It's at somebody's crib. That's why you see the guagua, the pickup truck. And that's why you hear artists like Tego, Calderón, Don Omar, Daddy Yankee. That's that era. That culture translated straight from Puerto Rico to basement parties in Brooklyn and apartment parties in the Bronx. Same speakers, same grinding, same energy. Everybody dancing together, men with women, men with men, women with women, grinding, catching a wine, sensual, not always sexual. Sometimes it's just about having a good time with someone who knows how to move. So when conservative clutch their pearls and perreo or reggaeton gets condemned, we're not surprised. This happens every time Black people dance freely. In the Caribbean, it goes as far back as fete culture and carnival. And now it's on the biggest stage in the world. So all those dancers perreando on stage, that was wow political. After the perreo section, the performance shifts again. The next dance style that we see is salsa. But what matters here is which salsa and when. Because the salsa that you see with Lady Gaga is not the same salsa you see a few minutes later. When Lady Gaga comes out, what you're watching is performance style salsa for stage. The kind you see at social performances, at salsa congresses, in productions. It's upright, polished, lots of arm styling, lifts, lines, passe, double attitudes. A lot of that partnering comes from European partner dance traditions that fed into salsa early on, like Cuban danzón. And a lot of the shapes and the lifts pull straight from ballroom and ballet. Right before this, Bad Bunny says, Dime, dime, dime. You wanted this palatable version? This section is part spectacle, but still very much rooted in salsa antu culture. Then Bad Bunny comes in with Baile Inolvidable, and the salsa changes. And what you're seeing is what I like to call Sala Salsa, living room salsa. The salsa you learn en la sala con tu mamá, en la casa de tu abuela, en la cocina de tu bisabuela, at weddings, quinceañeras, navidades, family parties. The salsa everybody knows, whether you ever trained at a studio or not, is grounded, more communal, more Afro, more raw. You're not going forward and back anymore. You're going side to side. So grounding the dance in something that you would actually see at a Puerto Rican wedding is valid. Then Bad Bunny falls off the roof and we land in. And the salsa shifts again. This is New York style Mambo on 2, not on 1. We're not on the West Coast. You see some partnering here, but mostly what we call shines. Shines are solo movement, individual expression. After you break away from your partner, It's how you show who you are, your tumbao, your musicality, your flavor. Shines came out of call and response. In the clubs and on the streets, somebody would step out and call out a shine, and everyone else would repeat it and add their zhush. It's deeply African. These movements are deeply influenced by Afro-Cuban rumba, especially guaguancó, as well as Black American vernacular jazz. That lineage comes out of New York, out of Harlem, where Puerto Ricans, Cubans, and Black Americans were partying together from the early 1900s through the mid-20th century into the 70s, 80s, and even to today. The music was evolving, and with it, the movement. Places like the Palladium weren't just dance halls, they were spaces of real cultural exchange. Eventually, what was happening there got codified by the Mambo king, Eddie Torres. Eddie Torres, who was Puerto Rican, took what was happening socially in community, in the clubs, in the streets, and brought it into the studio. He named the steps, he structured the partnering, he formalized shines, and he codified Mambo onto. Because salsa dance didn't go global straight from Cuba or Puerto Rico. It went global through New York, through the Puerto Rican diaspora, through people like Eddie Torres. This is an ode to New Yorkers. It connects the island to the diaspora. It connects Afro-Latin movement to Black Atlantic history. What we saw wasn't just dance. It was history, it was memory, it was joy. Joy that was being experienced during hard times, because when all else fails, we dance. After all of the dance sections, the next movement we see isn't dance at all. It's stunt choreography, aerial, acrobatic movement on electric poles. And this movement isn't about style, culture, or musicality. It's about tension, frustration, resistance. They're pushing away from the structure, hanging, spinning, throwing their arms, yelling, fighting gravity, fighting the object itself. They're not dancing on the electric poles. They're fighting them. This section happens during El Apagón, a song that is literally about power outages, infrastructure failure, and neglect on the island, and people living without electricity and dying because systems failed them. A direct result of colonization and U.S. outsourcing to companies that do not give a fuck about Puerto Rico. The movement becomes a physical metaphor for anger and survival, and a very clear fuck you to Luma and the privatized power grid that has fed Puerto Rico over and over and over again. And what's important is where this moment sits in the show. Right before this, we've just gone through joy, perreo, community, Sala Salsa, Nueva York. Then Ricky Martin sings Lo que pasó a Hawaii, which drops us straight into conversations about colonization, land theft, and exploitation, taxation without representation. The performers are dressed as jíbaros, the same way that they were dressed at the very beginning, in white, wearing pavas, referencing the countryside, the poor, the people who are always hit first and hardest when systems collapse. This is the last choreographed section of the show, and it feels like an apex before release. Because after this, everything opens up. Everyone floods the fields. They're running, laughing, waving flags from across Latin America and the Caribbean. And it brings everything full circle. From sugarcane fields to colonization, to migration, to power failures, to shared humanity in the diaspora fighting against ICE. The movement created by these 6 choreographers and hundreds of dancers told a story where joy becomes resistance. No matter what, we survive, we remember, we move, and we keep dancing. So shout out to everyone involved, especially the dancers, because this wasn't dancing for dance's sake, and low-key, y'all was eating. This was history, memory, protest, a reminder that dance is political. It always has been, and it always will be.
Vale más de lo que pienso.